Welcome to Muscle for Life. Let's do some rating of some different protein sources. I've listed a few different ones here. Some of them are normal sort of animal sources, some of them are vegan sources, and it'd be really good to go through them to see why we rate them in a certain way that we do and why we actually believe that still, obviously, animal sources are very good, but that vegan sources can be good, but obviously you have to learn how to combine them. So number one, we got whey protein. Now, whey protein is obviously a powder form, mixes well with water. So digestibility wise, it's actually very good. It actually, when it's whey protein isolate, they've removed most of the fat, they've removed most of the carbohydrates, so it's mainly whey protein. And it also has a very good amino acid profile. In other words, it's a complete protein, all the amino acids are there. So whey protein is actually a very good protein. Mix it with water and it actually goes and digests quite quickly, so it's bioavailable, and obviously, because I said the amino acid profile is good, whey protein is obviously very high. Now eggs are very good. The problem with eggs is that obviously they have a lot of fat in them, but there's a lot of fat-soluble vitamins in that as well as some B vitamins. But eggs have a very high amino acid profile, and the digestibility is pretty good. The digestibility of egg whites is better, but there isn't as many vitamins and minerals in egg whites as there are in eggs. Most of the vitamins and minerals are in the yolks. So while eggs are quite good in terms of the vitamins and minerals and the amino acid profile, the digestibility of eggs is a little bit lower than the digestibility of egg whites. So I guess if you combine the two, you had a few egg whites and some eggs, they'd be actually quite good. Chicken is reasonably digestible. Okay, it's digested quite well. The amino acid profile of chicken is good. The fat profile is actually very good of chicken. It doesn't actually have all saturated fats. It has a lot of monounsaturated fats. So in terms of rating this as a good protein source, it's actually a very good protein source. And it's probably the reason why a lot of people use, especially chicken breast, but chicken in general as a protein source, is because it's digestible. Most people can handle it in terms of digestion, so it's actually a very good source. I choose chicken breast, but sometimes I have thigh. Thigh just has a little bit more fat, but has a nicer flavor and is actually a little bit sort of easier to eat. But chicken itself is a very high protein source in terms of digestibility and amino acid profile. All right, next up we have turkey. Turkey is very similar to chicken. Turkey breast is actually very low in fat, similar to chicken breast. Very digestible. Amino acid profile is probably very similar to chicken. So really turkey, chicken are very good in terms of the amount of protein you get from them. And also the amino acid profile. White fish, on the other hand, now white fish is very digestible. It's actually more digestible than turkey and chicken. The only problem with white fish is that it has a lot more water in it, so the actual amount of protein per 100 grams is lower than chicken and turkey. And so in that respect, digestibility is good, amino acid profile is good, but the protein amount is high, so you have to actually eat more white fish to be able to get the protein you want out of it. Now, salmon and other fatty fish. Salmon and other fatty fish, generally because the fat's high, the protein is lower. The actual protein itself is very good amino acid profile, pretty much complete proteins, the same as, eggs, egg whites, chicken, turkey, and white fish. The only difference is it has a lot of fats in it, but that's good because it has a lot of your fat-soluble vitamins and your omega-3s. It's bad in the fact that it actually takes longer to digest. So the bioavailability of it is actually much slower than, let's say, white fish. But overall, salmon and other fatty fishes, mackerels and so forth, they're actually very good for you. Now, beef. Beef is a very good source of protein in terms of the amino acid profile. It's high in vitamin B, high in iron, and depending on which cut of beef you have, it can be high in fat or very lean. If you cut all the fat off it before you cook it, it's very lean. If you eat fattier cuts of meat, obviously there's going to be less protein. So whilst the protein in it is quite good, it does have the extra fat in it, so you don't get as much protein per 100 gram. But overall, beef is a pretty good source of protein. The only problem is the digestibility of it is a little bit lower than that of, say, your white fish, your turkey, your chicken, eggs and egg whites. Okay, and just because depending on the cut of beef, it may have more fat or not. Alright, now we get on to our vegan sources of protein. So you've got soy protein and pea protein. Now, when they're in their powder form, their isolate form, they're actually quite digestible. Not quite as digestible as whey protein, and certainly not a complete source of protein. But if you do some combining of different vegan protein isolates in a powder form, you do get a more complete protein, and they are very similar in terms of amino acid profile to a lot of your sort of beef, chicken and turkey sources. A little bit lower in your branched chain amino acids and some other amino acids like arginine. But if you do the combinations, you can actually go and get arginine and your amino acids from other different sources of vegan proteins. It's not that low that it's really a lot to worry about. So if you're a vegan, you should be supplementing with, say, a pea protein or a soy protein or a combination of the two. And they also use a wheat protein isolate in order to go and pick up some amino acids that are not high in soy or pea protein. But overall, not quite as good as your animal sources, but still very good, and shouldn't, if you get enough protein, affect you too much. Okay. Now, legumes, or basically your soybeans, kidney beans, white beans, all the different types of beans, and peanuts also come into that. They do have a decent amount of protein per 100 gram. The problem is a lot of that protein is within the fiber, and because it's within the fiber, when you go to digest them, they take a lot of digestion, so the bioavailability is not quite there and the amino acid profile is not quite there. So you do actually have to have a lot of protein from these sources to be able to do that. But I guess the catch-22 of that is, especially if you're talking about nuts, they do have a large amount of fat in them and carbohydrates as well. So you're going to get a lot more carbohydrates and not as much bang for your buck in terms of your protein. Okay, so from a vegan perspective, especially if you're looking to gain muscle, you're going to have to supplement with a soy protein, a pea protein, or a combination of, okay, if you're eating a lot of legumes and nuts. Okay, so generally speaking, vegan proteins are a little bit lower, but if you get enough protein, you should be pretty good with getting most of your amino acids. Okay guys, so in summary, when we're rating protein sources, okay, so obviously whey is very digestible, has a good amino acid profile. Eggs and egg whites, similar to whey protein, but obviously a little bit more digestion. Chicken, turkey and white fish, a little behind those in terms of the digestibility, but the amino acid profile is very good on all these proteins. Salmon and mackerel and other types of fatty fish don't have quite the, they have the amino acid profile, but they have more fats, so they don't have as much protein per 100 grams as, let's say, white fish, but they do actually have a very good amino acid profile and do have a lot of fat-soluble vitamins and omega-3, so they are good in that respect. Beef, a lot less digestible than your chicken and your turkey, but it does actually have a lot of protein and very good protein. Beef actually has a lot of vitamins and it's a good source of minerals. So beef is good in that way. The only problem with beef is, depending on the cut, it has a lot of fat, as has already been said. So beef is not always the best source of protein, but it's, in terms of the quality of the protein, it's actually very high. Now, obviously, as said in the, already in this video, all your different vegan sources are not quite as good as your animal sources. But if you do some food combining and you also use a supplement of soy protein isolate or pea protein isolate, you can get actually a very good source of protein to supplement with your legumes and your nuts, and in that respect get enough protein and enough complete protein to meet your amino acid needs. Okay, So overall, animal source is better, but with the technology with vegan sources, they're starting to catch up. And when they've been studied, there isn't really that much of a difference in protein synthesis between your protein powders that come from vegan sources and your protein powders that come from whey protein. Hopefully you've got a lot out of this video. Keep it on save so you can have a look back at it. But generally speaking, your animal sources are better. And if I'm eating meals, I would have more sort of chicken, turkey and so forth. If I'm looking for a supplement that's quick or something that's easy to go and put with other foods, whey protein is my go-to. Eggs, I do eat some eggs, but I eat mainly just 2 eggs in the morning, mainly because of the amount of fat in them. But I do eat them because they still have fat-soluble vitamins. But thanks for listening, guys. And if you've got any questions, by all means, make a comment. Thanks for listening.